It is 5:30. It is 5:30. We will bring this meeting February 28th of the Delta County Planning Commission to order. We do have a quorum by the hair of our chinny chin chin. The agenda, to consider any changes to the agenda. Initially, when I thought we would have the entirety of our board, I was going to put it to the board to see if we wanted to do our annual reorganization of electing officers and things like that. But I think with only 2/3 of us being here, if you guys are okay with that, I'd push that to our next meeting. Seeing no one fighting that, we'll move on to C, meeting minutes. We have none. Moving on from that, we have a public hearing today of PLN. Oh,
I have a question real quick, if we could, before we go on.
sure.
Can we get an explanation of the vacancies on each of the districts?
Yes.
Will that be a staff report? Or is that included in the staff report, or you wanna do that now?
I can just give a little bit. I did talk to one of the commissioners this week. There was, I think the reason for the vacancies, they were waiting until the land use code was heard, which will we be getting an update on that?
Yes, I have a short presentation to give to you folks.
So they're putting a hold on that, but I heard there's also a tentative date.
March 5th is the date that I think that I heard from the board that they are going to be filling those vacancies.
So did they resign or?
They came to the end, Steve and TK, they had come to the end of their term and they decided they wanted to move on to do other things and leave it open to some fresh voices.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And yeah, none of them reapplied.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I had the same question. So we'll move to public hearing, PLN 23-084 for F Ballard to consider preliminary subdivision subdividing 37.65 acres in the A20 zone, the 3 lots. Kick it off to staff.
All right, so PLN 23-084 Ballard Farm subdivision. We'll be considering a preliminary subdivision subdividing 37.65 acres in an A20 zoning district into 3 lots, which is a preliminary plat. The property is located on the north side of E Road and the west side of 2100 Road in Delta. I pulled up just a Google map for you guys. Those 2 red dots there, the property is kind of right in between those. I just wanted to highlight it as much as I could. Blue dot in Delta on the left side, which you can almost see on that screen, is where we are. So just to give you a frame of reference of where it is in the county. This is the planning department zoning map. So you can see that the property is in the A20 zone, just north of an A35 zone along E Road. These are the existing site conditions at the property as it would look like from the sky right now. The proposed subdivision is to divide the plat into 3. Lot 1 is 28.33 acres, consisting of an existing single-family residence with access from E Road. Lot 2 is currently a vacant residential lot with access existing from 2100 Road through an existing 16-foot shared driveway. And Lot 3 is currently a vacant residential lot with access existing from 2100 Road through an existing 16-foot shared driveway. A little bit of history. An approved site plan was issued on August 8th of 2023 last year. It included the domestic water that's been purchased through Tri-County with the tap number. The county requirements for setbacks were met. There were no encroachment issues. Access permits were issued. Addresses have been assigned and the on-site water treatment system has been permitted. After submitting their initial site plan, there were some recommendations and they revised their preliminary plat that they had to address the concerns that we had from the county staff. So they added a right-of-way dedication requirements for both E Road and 2100 Road as required by the County Engineering Department. They updated their plat notes, they updated their signature blocks, and they included their water tap information on the plat. There's a requirement of UVWUA, a 75-foot easement for maintenance and operation. So they added all that stuff. Go ahead. In addition, county engineering has determined that access for lots 2 and 3 is permitted. Access for lot 1 is permitted. E Road is a minor arterial and requires 100 feet of right of way, so 50 feet on each side of the center line, and does require an additional 20 feet of right of way. The 2100 Road is a collector and requires 80 feet of right of way, 40 feet on each side of the center line, and requires an additional 10 feet right of way. This is the updated plat that was submitted to us with all of the recommendations and things that needed to be added. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend the following actions to the Board of County Commissioners. Find that PLN 23-084 Ballard Farm meets the requirements for the 2021 Land Use Code and for a preliminary plat, and to approve the preliminary plat to subdivide 37.65 acres into 3 lots. Lot 1 would be 28.33 acres, lot 2, 4.56 acres, lot 3, 3.8 acres, and it's all in the A20 zone, subject to conditions. That is the entirety of our report.
So at this time, I'll go around the room, see if we have any questions of staff. Starting with Matt.
Question on the on-site waste treatment and the water tap. Is that one system for the entire 3 lots, or is that for which lot is that applied to?
So, and Fred is here, so there is already an existing, single family dwelling on lot 1. So I believe there is no on-site wastewater treatment for lots 2 and 3 currently. They are planning to build sooner, so they will do all that
So they'll
stuff.
have to apply for their own.
Correct,
That's all I needed.
but each lot does have their own tap,
Each lot does have a water tap?
yes.
Very good.
Did the Uncompahgre Valley Water Use Association provide any conditions as far as how irrigation water is to be distributed?
They did, and they decided or mentioned that they will be separated at a later time. Mhm.
What is the current infrastructure for irrigation property?
Would you be able to come up so I can?
Yep. We'll just,
You want?
Fred Ballard, 21772 E Road, Delta, Colorado. So currently the head gate is actually just to the west of the property that Uncompahgre Valley Water Users delivers to. And then we have a private ditch that comes from that head gate to the southwest corner of our property. And then from there, it's distributed in to underground pipe that goes into alfalfa valves and waters the fields via gated pipe at this time. The 2 lots that we're dividing to the east have not been irrigated or farmed in quite a while, but we do have another head gate that's actually on the other side of 2100 Road that we're planning on running a pipe. It'll be just a small amount of water, basically for yards is all it will. That's all the head gate will allow for. So like a 2-inch PVC that's got 30 pounds of pressure. It's not going to be a lot.
Will your existing agricultural operations will they be maintained?
Correct.
Okay, very cool. Good question.
David,
For staff or for,
either.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got questions for Mr. Ballard. You want to go around first?
Let's keep it at staff and then we'll have Mr. Ballard. Nothing for staff. Lane.
Oh, I got taps already run, sounds to me like, and what I read down there, well, he's got his ducks in a row, so.
Yep. Yeah. Katie?
Did I read in the packet that Mr. Ballard's already been to the Board of Adjustments to approve the smaller lot sizes. Okay. I think that's my only clarifying question.
Yeah, I did see that, and that probably explains of why it's taken a bit longer for this to get to us. You had to follow some steps. But we do appreciate the kind of the fullness of this report. You know, we don't get a whole, we see plats and sometimes they're not this well drawn out. So we do appreciate that. Is there anything you feel that you want to address to us that staff has not covered?
They've covered pretty well everything. I think, you know, we've already went through the Board of Adjustments, bought water taps, we installed driveway. We're ready to build. My son's been waiting for a couple months. His wife is pregnant and they're having a baby in a month. Her health is not really suitable for a toddler, so they're a little anxious to get going.
Do we have any other questions, Mr. Ballard, this time?
Going back to the variance. I think you kind of stepped on that already. The variance was granted for family estate purposes, correct?
Correct, yep. So, our son is, of course, lot one, we'll keep for the farm. We actually, my family owns a bunch more land there. We've got a couple hundred acres there that we farm. This is just a small piece. It's a separate
Okay.
parcel already. And so we'll continue to farm 37 for the smaller or the larger parcel. And then my son is wanting to build on lot two, as soon as possible. And they've been chomping at the bit. And, unfortunately, bank don't own money until it's split, so.
The other lot, I'm looking at the notes there that's gonna also go to a family member.
Yes, and we haven't decided exactly when that will happen. I've got 7 sons, so
Okay.
I've got plenty of boys that are, and a couple of them keep talking about, it's like, well, we'll just see kind of how that works, because we gotta figure out what we do with the other ones. If I let another one have it, then.
But the variance was granted based upon your presentation that these 2 lots would go to
That is-
one of your family members.
Yes,
So if there was a condition that those could only be conveyed to your family members, would you be acceptable with that?
I guess I would, you know, because you never know what's gonna happen, and I would wanna know why that condition was made part of it, because, you know, something might change in the future, and like right now, my other boys don't have that kind of money, so right now, we're probably gonna retain that property for a little while and build a house ourselves and let one of them stay in it. So,
But the variance was granted upon your representation that this would go to 2 family members for estate purposes, not just put it on the market and try and make money.
the plan is not to market, no. If that helps clarify, the plan is not to market it, but, you know, someday down the road, something may change. So, but immediately, for a while, it would definitely be family, you know, if we build a house there ourselves and let one boy stay there, so it's still for family at this point.
There was a suggestion made at the Board of Adjustment level. I wasn't there, so I don't know, but about no further subdivision of these lots.
Correct, and the way we understood this is we cannot do that for 10 years.
Okay. So that would, okay. You'd be acceptable with that condition.
Correct.
That's all I got.
Lane, you got anything?
No, I read the packet that knowing quite a bit about Peach Valley, any improvement would be welcome out there.
Are you is this Peach Valley?
Yes, it is.
The edge of it?
It's the edge, yeah. Everybody says it's Peach Valley. I don't know where Peach Valley starts.
Yeah, yeah,
Peaches are.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, is there anything else we need from Mr. Ballard? We'll bring it back to the table. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So as many of you know, the commissioners did just approve a new land use code, amendment that we voted nay or maybe to not do anything with, but until that point is made clear, we're going to keep operating under the land use code. So just just an FYI, just want to bring that up top. So any decisions we make here will not be based on anything that was accepted a couple weeks ago by the commissioners. So with that in mind, operating under the old standards, do we have entertain a motion or discussion around this here 3-lot split?
I've got some discussion about the variance, which is granted based upon family estate purposes, whatever that means. But Mr. Ballard indicated, and the minutes from the Board of Adjustment meeting indicate that the intent is to subdivide the parcel for family members to build single family residence in lots 2 and 3. So I think it should be limited to that purpose. You can, and I know he's got one son that's ready to go, but I think that should be a condition that these lots can only be conveyed to family members. Otherwise, the whole intent and purpose of the variance is set aside. You're missing that point.
Would you entertain a timeline?
What's that?
Would you entertain a timeline for such condition? Or would you like?
Well, that's the tough part, given that they say they don't know if and when it'll ever happen. But it seems like if that is the justification for the variance, then it should be limited to that. Otherwise, anybody can come in and say, oh, this is estate planning purposes, and then as soon as they get approval, throw it on the market and sell it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna suggest that we add a condition of lots 2 and 3 can only be conveyed to immediate family members. Timeline, I guess, if the other limitation was no further subdivision for 10 years, I suppose you could say if it doesn't happen in 10 years, then they can do something different.
How do we feel about this suggestion?
I like that suggestion. I agree. It'd be interesting to hear from the Board of Adjustments how much weight the for family estate purposes held in their decision. If it would have been or if it would have been approved regardless of that, or if it would have been denied without that. But we don't have that information, so I think based off what we are seeing here, I would also agree that, I think a 10-year period, in perpetuity is, obviously not something we can really do, but nor would want to do, but I think 10 years is a good time frame.
Matt?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I would hope, however, that in the future, they could re-petition for a designation that they can be sold. We put a 10-year moratorium on that, as per the Board of Adjustment has said. So we're not violating what they've agreed
No.
to do.
No, I don't think so. I don't think we're contradicting them. I think we're being consistent with what they did.
But in the future, they would still have the right to re-subdivide that
Sure,
after the 10 years has expired.
sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no really language or aspects of our land use code that, say 5 years from now, they decide like, hey, kids have confirmed definitively they don't want it. We would like to sell it. Where, okay, you need to submit another application. You need to go back before either Board of Adjustments or Planning Commission to get an approval to remove the family estate condition. I don't know if there's anything in the land use code that we can.
We put plat notes on parcels before with time
Yeah,
restraints.
I've seen it done before.
Yeah.
So I think something like that would make sense. It's not,
Could be plat.
again, it's not a no, it's just.
Yeah.
The conditions have changed. You need to resubmit your application.
And we stay in congruency with the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah, I think it's consistent.
Yeah.
If there's a variance granted, here's the reason for the variance. Okay, you're gonna change that, then maybe you resubmit or,
Variance.
yeah, then it's a different variance.
Sure.
what that language looks like.
Yeah. I'm just kind of pondering about, yeah, whether 10 years is a reasonable or the correct time frame. You know, foreseeably, a family member could, you know, move in and then decide they need to sell for whatever reason, they get a job somewhere else, or they,
Well, that's a
Their
second, that would be the
families,
second step.
yeah.
If. Valid.
But the initial conveyance, yeah,
Initial conveyance.
yeah, I feel comfortable with that, the initial conveyance needs to be to a family member. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and then that's the other thing I was gonna ask is how do we, are we in the business of defining what family is, or do we just say family member and let them hash it out?
you know, the minutes from the Board of Adjustment say the applicant's intent is to subdivide the parcel for family members, well, just say family members, build single family residences.
Yeah.
I don't know, I wasn't at the meeting.
Do we
We could
wanna
take the-
restrict single family residences as well? Or do we just kind of assume that that will likely be what gets built there?
I'm not so concerned about that.
Mhm.
I just think to be consistent with the
Yeah.
terms of the variance,
Mhm.
that limitation should be part of our recommendation.
We need to be in harmony with that variance.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, otherwise they're kind of, they can go anywhere they want with the variance. They can say one thing and then turn around and do something else, an applicant could. If that is the purpose of the variance, then it'd be limited.
Maybe we ought to ask Mr. Ballard if you want to change the wording of the variance and go back in for that.
Not at this point, we've been waiting for 8 months.
Yeah.
No, we were told this would take 4 months and here we are 8 months later.
I'm sorry about that.
So, just to run wording by you, that we had a condition to be consistent with the Board of Adjustments decision. That this property can only be initially conveyed to family members for estate planning for the first 10 years.
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
I'd second that.
all right. So I guess I'll finish my motion. I move to approve the Ballard, PLN 23-084. Conditions as set by staff with the addition of the conditions set by the PC that to be consistent with the Board of Adjustments decision that this property can only be initially conveyed or lots 2 and 3 can only initially be conveyed to a family member for estate planning for the first 10 years. I heard a second from Lane. Is there any further discussion of this motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Thank you, Mr. Ballard. This will be forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners, hopefully sooner than later. And we can start building.
This gonna be your first grandchild?
It is.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Agenda. That was nice. Department report. Mr. Hanson.
If you could pull up my other slideshow. So at the public hearing on the 21st, I gave a short presentation to everybody who was there. I have edited my presentation for you folks here this evening. It only takes about 7 minutes, so hopefully it won't take me too long. There are some weeds that we could get caught up in, but hopefully we'll stay above that. So the transition from and I'm gonna read because I haven't memorized all this stuff, but the transition from the 21 to the 2024 land use code in Delta County represents a pivotal shift towards embracing sustainable development, refining zoning practices, and enhancing regulatory clarity to better serve the community's evolving needs. This comprehensive update reflects a deliberate effort to align the county's growth strategy with broader objectives outlined in the 2018 Delta County Master Plan, ensuring that development not only protects our agricultural heritage, but also safeguards our natural resources. One of the cornerstone changes to this update is the strategic rezoning of the urban growth areas to residential 1. This move is emblematic of Delta County's commitment to creating more defined residential spaces that cater to the needs of its inhabitants while preserving the character and environmental integrity of the area. So the map that's up on the screen now is our new zoning map. The light green areas towards the municipalities, or I guess it's gray areas on here. But this represents the change from the UGA to Res 1. This map is on our county website on the GIS page, so everybody does have access to this. By adjusting the minimum lot sizes, the county is aiming to foster a more organized and sustainable residential landscape, promoting development that both is responsible and in harmony with the community's vision for our growth. Next, please. Table 2B is where a lot of these changes are reflected, and I could definitely kill way too much time going through all of the details in these next 2 slides, but I just want to highlight the changes in Table 2B. So again, we've rezoned the UGA to residential 1, reflecting that shift towards more spatial, more residential development around the municipalities. There are new zoning categories. There's an addition of an A2.5 and the residential 1 zoning. This allows for more nuanced land use planning, and it should accommodate both agricultural and residential growth with specific space requirements. We have vacated outdated resolutions. For instance, removing the renewable energy moratorium is paving the way for integrated modern energy solutions into community planning. Excuse me, there have been specific use regulation changes, adjustments and regulations for RVs as dwelling units could specify conditions under which RVs can be used for permanent housing, ensuring infrastructure compatibility. We have the introduction of some new regulations incorporating standards for renewable energy, includes guidelines for installation and operation of solar farms, reflecting again our commitment to sustainable development in the county. The development standards and review process, we've really streamlined a lot of the review process, which you can see in this slide and the next slide with the accepted uses. So that's the A's. So this should help to streamline the review process and simplify application procedures for landowners, farmers, developers. Hopefully, the intent is to reduce bureaucracy and hopefully speed up approval times for folks like we just gave the approval for. There is environmental and infrastructure considerations. So modifying our cistern use regulations reflect our updated approach to water conservation and management and allows for more flexible water solutions in certain developments. And lastly, there's from Table 2B, the subdivision, you're okay. The subdivision regulation enhancements, they clarify the subdivision regulations and they define clear standards for plat approval, ensuring that new developments, again, meet these community standards and infrastructure requirements. Oh, where did I leave off? So we've really, the Planning Commission and the board has really taken a close look at this very specific uses of land. That's what you guys have spent the last couple of years debating and really getting into, from how we use recreational vehicles as homes to defining what makes a home business. We've really, you guys, everybody involved in the county and here in the Planning Commission, it's really about clarity and making sure that everybody understands what is allowed and ensures those uses benefit our community. The detailed revision of the regulations for specific uses Again, recreational vehicles, special events, home businesses, and accessory dwelling units really address the practical concerns of the community and the emerging trends in land use as a whole. So these updates really clarify and refine the county's stance on a range of development scenarios, providing greater flexibility and certainty for property owners and developers. By delineating the conditions under which certain uses are permitted, the county ensures that development is both manageable and in line with the community standards. Next. So overall, we've really streamlined how we review and approve new developments. This means less red tape and more doing, whether it's a new home, a business, or a community project. We're really making the process smoother and more straightforward. So overall, the transition to the 2024 Land Use Code is a testament to Delta County's proactive and thoughtful approach to planning and development, and it helps to reflect our comprehensive effort to update and refine the regulatory framework governing our land use. With a keen eye on natural resource protection, agricultural heritage, community well-being, and the dynamic needs of Delta County residents, this update is not just about regulatory changes. It's about setting a foundation for future growth that is inclusive, sustainable, and reflective of the collective vision of Delta County community. That is my presentation.
Is there a notification to the UGA parcels that there's changing to Res 1?
There's currently not notification. That has been, I've heard different discussions around that. We could reach out to all those folks. The guidelines for the residential 1 acre I think are more in alignment with what is happening in those areas. But no, those folks have not been notified yet.
And then do we know where we're at with meeting with the townships to discuss, that was part of the UGA conundrum was, them throwing stuff on us and us throwing stuff on them. So now we have a clear zoning. Are we gonna be talking with them now?
Yes, I would assume that we're going to continue that relationship. We do have projects that are kind of inter-municipal projects that are going on the edges of the city and in the county. So we'll definitely have to be communication with the municipalities.
And then is there still, do we still have so do we have the overlay of like the IGAs?
Yes, on the GIS on our website, the GIS has all the old maps, the new maps, kind of everything there. You can kind of compare and contrast them depending upon how savvy you are at clicking buttons on the maps.
Right. And then one last question for me, and I'll open up to anyone else. Would we, as a thought experiment, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but would we see Mr. Ballard under the new code? His exact, if he were to apply today, the new code, would that 3 lots split be heard by the planning commission?
It would have been heard by the Board of Adjustments. Yes.
It would still need a variance.
Yes.
Are there any other questions for staff?
So I've been going quite a bit over the life we all have. I tried finding in my email, do we have the last final recommendation that we sent to the board of county commissioners of what we proposed for our changes on the land use code? That could be emailed to me.
That was the last recommendations that got forwarded to the board would have been when Carl was still the director. The last PC meeting, because of the decisions that you made, your recommendations did not officially get forwarded to the board, even though I stated them verbally to the board.
So we don't have that Cause I could have swore that got sent out to all planning commission members, and I just couldn't find it.
At some point, like our red line version that we,
The final
Yeah.
red line, we're like, okay, we're done, this is what we're sending to the board as our recommendation.
Yeah,
oh,
we
it's
must
in
have
it
that.
somewhere.
You're not talking about the one, and you may have gone for this for when we voted it down essentially. Which I guess we didn't.
So
have
it'd be
any-
like the one before that, it'd be the one that we recommended to them.
So when we finalized our discussion on the online use code and got all of our adjustments made of what we were sending to the board.
Yeah.
So clearly you can't go anywhere without saying that there are a lot of people that are really pissed off. And
Indeed.
I have noticed a few things, it's like, oh, okay, well, they didn't take that recommendation. And I'm just curious how much change there was or how little of our input they accepted and put into the land use code. I'm just curious about that.
In general, I would say over the last 2 years, there have been quite a few significant changes to address as many of the concerns that they could address that you guys have brought up.
But a lot of our like meticulous table 2B changes and some of our other changes were not accepted by them.
Correct.
Yeah, and then another question I had was going forward, there's a lot of comments, some not so good, but some substantive at the public hearing. How are those gonna be incorporated to any further edits? Because as the commissioners have said, this is living documents, so
Sure.
are we starting a compilation of?
Once I'm able to parse through the meeting minutes, I'm going to comprehensively go through all of the comments. And the comments that are specifically on the land use code, in specific areas. We will address those things with the board. If the board, sees that they need to be adjusted, there will be specific things that will be brought to the planning commission. So rather than just an umbrella, hey, we're working on the land use code, we will have a specific section that will go back to the planning commission for recommendations and future edits. And there are edits, everything from adjusting commas to, addressing some of the things that weren't addressed in the past.
It's a good question though, because there's a lot of versions. And
Right.
We knew that coming in was,
Where I'm at. Can we get the one they just adopted?
yeah, that'd be
Is that online? Is that?
Yeah, so
Final.
right now, the ratified 2024 land use code
Okay.
is on our webpage, and the 2021 land use code is on the webpage, because any applications that were submitted before the 21st of February will be subject to the 2021 land use code. So we have both of those on there.
and I've asked Austin that once we do switch, maybe making us a bit of a cheat sheet of major changes. That we, for those of us that understand the 21 code. It'll be tough for the three that get appointed here in the next month. They'll have to operate on the 21 for, I don't know, a few months until you run through everything that was under the 21 code.
Right. Kate and Brittany, do you know how many future projects would come to the planning commission on the 2021 code?
Ballpark.
Maybe two.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no time.
So,
Thank you.
Has there been any discussion, either within the planning department or the SEC? Kind of like outreach to what I would call like major stakeholders with the changes. I think a lot of the comments that we heard, especially initially about the revision, was just people that had no idea that the 21 code even existed or what was in it. Like, is there going to be any effort to meet with people like realtors, contractors,
surveyors.
yeah, farming groups about what this really means for them?
Yes, I attend the board of realtors meeting, water committee conference. The answer is yes, we're gonna be reaching out as much as possible, really over the next year, 6 months to a year, to do what we can to help people to understand what is in this new land use code and what it means for them.
And then I guess I would just plug that there's some more. I don't know what to call it, open forums where it's not specific associations, people that. Were under the impression that as an individual citizen, they could do whatever they wanted on their land, I don't know, if like through the libraries or somewhere where. Someone that's not developing a subdivision or trying to sell their property necessarily, but just the average person could come in and get a little information or a briefing, I guess.
Yeah, so Everett has done a great job with creating kind of an open mic night, where we're basically open to answer questions about kind of whatever people have concerns about. And at those meetings, he asks folks at the end, if you have any questions or concerns about anything, bring that up so that we can have that as a topic in our open mic night. We are planning on doing that once a month, I think Thursday evenings.
Yeah, Thursdays. It's been basically, the whole premise of this was to create a non-formal group of people. You come in, I tend to run it to where I'll have a topic. And we'll talk about that topic, I'll do the presentation, whatever. We kind of leave it to the people who come to then decide the next topic. So again, the whole point is we've been putting it out there on our website, we've been putting out all over the place. This is this isn't formal, there's no agenda, there's no minutes, it's literally, this is, ask me anything. If I don't know the answer, I'll bring in a specialist who does on the next meeting. So basically, I'm trying to get a feel for what do they want to know. If I can't answer their questions, like they have, like we had the planning history, kind of a slideshow presentation that Kate did. So I just brought that and I'll pull whatever expert in the field that is, if I don't have the correct answers, then they'll present. But I keep hoping we'll see more input in that, but it talks about everyone saying they want to be a part of something. But this has been going on and I have flyers, we put it on the website, I think it's getting radio plugs, 8 people.
Yeah, when is it and where is it?
We do it right here at the Samuel Wade Room. I think my next one I gotta look in the schedule.
It's like the third Thursday of the
Yeah,
month.
third Thursday of the month.
Snacks are approved.
Yep, we write snacks. I go get different snacks all the time. But the idea is to be. I don't do 3-minute times. We just literally, it's a discussion. And if people have something they want to talk about, we work on it.
Kind of the format is we're basically give a 10-minute presentation of the topic and then it's open up for discussion.
And is this planning specific?
Well, it's not really, I mean.
No.
I call it, community chat.
Yeah.
Come down, and that's what I was telling them, if you have a conversation that you need information on that I don't have.
Yeah.
I have the resource to find it. And that's how I do it is. But we haven't seen a lot of participation.
Right.
But we have had, some of the bigger, people on Facebook, some of the more public entities like Nico Wolf and Jacob, they've been to at least 2 of them.
Good.
So. I mean, but the thing it is, like I told them the last time was recruit.
Yeah.
Bring people.
Yeah.
And I said I would even alternate if we had no people in the North Fork, I could do something in the North Fork. Switch around, but right now we just don't seem to have participation as much as you hear the outcry that we're not available. It's totally open.
I saw an article in today's Shopper from the surveyors yet. Now, they've been crabbing for the last 6-8 months about our land use code. Have they ever participated in any?
No.
Maybe you ought to give them a formal invite. Instead of crabbing to the news media, why don't they come down and get involved and express their opinions?
That's the point of the group is if you want to change something, I said, because again, I give them ideas that I'm working on projects. I'm working on trying to streamline the mobile home demolition process. I'm trying to find funding for ways to assist in the financial assistance. I'm gonna go get asbestos certified so I can do certified asbestos inspections and knock that $600 off. I'm trying to do these different things. So I kind of keep them up to date on some of the projects that I'm working on. Because my goal in my code compliance side, it's kind of, the meeting started with me kind of wanting to make sure everyone understands code compliance isn't a closed door. I'm an open door, come talk to me anytime. And it doesn't mean I open a code compliance case. That's kind of the whole point, is this is a safe space. Any topic is welcome. And that's the whole idea, is that they have ideas. Hey, what do you got to brainstorm? What do you have? They did bring up certain properties that needed help, but I was already helping them. They didn't know that. So they bring up, yeah, I've already paid for a roll-off dumpster, cost us $1,300. That we already, yeah, we saw that, and we were on it. So part of that started well, but like I said, we've seen
It's gonna
It
take
needs to
time
take off.
to foster.
Thanks for doing that. I think
Yeah.
that's an important service you're doing.
So the commissioners have mentioned that this is a living document. I think we need to set a timeline or a cycle at which we will hear and entertain changes to the document, and let's not do it every month. So we can have a
I agree.
consistency.
Yeah. You know, I know there was that running list, as we're closing in on this, of the things that were coming out from all this dialogue that we wanted to start touching on, so. I imagine it sounds like we're not gonna be a whole lot busy with specific projects, but I do think there's some more ideological things that we could be working on. Austin, do you want to talk a little bit about the housing thing? The affordable housing thing that might come to us soon-ish?
There are, I've seen, I guess, 5 different affordable housing / workforce housing projects. And I'm finding different kind of funding resources from the state that don't necessarily have to get funneled through the county, that can go directly to developers, and they're like loans, low interest loans or a bond. So we are trying to make every effort towards getting more affordable housing in the county. We are enrolled in Prop 123, and I have applied for a local planning capacity grant, which would help to fund a new employee that would spend 50% of their time trying to address affordable housing in the county, streamlining the processes. So that would be some of the things that we might bring to you for changes with the land use code for getting more affordable housing in. And when I say affordable housing, this is more mixed income. I'm not talking about affordable housing like up in Chicago, Cabrini Green style. Affordable housing today is has a lot more breadth than what it did in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. So it's not that we're going to be bringing in, huge tracts of apartments that are extremely dense. These are kind of small, not tiny homes. The tiny home is really tiny, but small manufactured homes, either from here in Colorado, the tech school. There's a variety of different places where we're trying to engage developers to kind of team up with the county, hopefully to get housing that is more workable for the working population of Delta County, so that they can stay here. They don't have to go someplace else to find a job and a place to live.
I mean, are we gonna see a survey because we had that study done?
Yeah, so we had Contour is helping us to do the maps for where we want these projects to happen. In the last meeting, the Planning Commission kind of voted as a whole on how to rate and grade the different areas. That actually wasn't the way that Contour was wanting the data to be collected. So hopefully for the next meeting, I've been working with Zach over at Contour to get us the information we need. We're basically just going to have a survey, and each Planning Commission member will rate the different areas themselves, and then all those will be collected and aggregated together in order to get more diversity in the data from us, rather than having a forum that says these are how we rate it. Each individual person will get to put their own ratings on it. So there won't be any debate. You'll have a little survey sheet that you fill out and hand in.
I had some questions about everybody's idea of affordable housing. I mean, you're going to address different builders or developers possibly. Is there any kind of a standards that has to be met for the materials in an affordable house?
Right,
And I hope there's not ever going to be a village of tiny homes
right,
or multifamily units.
right.
Because it only takes about 2 years for those multifamily units to turn into a plum slum area.
Right, a lot of the standards really have to do with the rates that the properties can either be sold or leased at. And it has to do with, our, I think it's the AMI, excuse me, I'm a little hungry. But, it really has to do with the price of the materials. The developers that I've been talking to, they actually have different size units that they are having manufactured all the way from New Hampshire to out here in Colorado. And they're manufactured in a way that you could put them in any spot in any state and they will meet building code standards. So they are gonna be well-built places that are going to last. It's not gonna be something cheap that's just thrown up. Yeah, no, we are wanting to hold the standard for those houses as high as we possibly can so that they can continue to be in the county and serve the county's housing needs into the future.
Okay.
There was something else that I'm forgetting.
Okay.
Sorry.
We'll meet again. Does anyone have any other questions regarding new land use code? Some of our, I think we will start working on things. Hopefully we'll start developing our running list of things we need to have.
Oh, I knew what it was. So hopefully we'll be getting our new members involved, and I've been talking with Robbie. I would like to get Dola in here to have, once we have a full crew again, to have a training on the responsibilities of being on the planning commission and all that means. I think that some people have probably had the training in the past, but we're just gonna we're gonna redo the training. There'll probably be new things involved in it, but I am hoping to have some training for the planning commission in order to help you guys navigate through your roles.
Great. Do we know what our next meeting is? Or when? And where? And why?
It's here, same time, same place.
In
March 13th.
March 13th.
Second week of March.
Be after the commissioners decide on filling the vacancies.
Yes, sir.
And are we hearing a project or we don't know yet? Okay. Well, show up if you want to vote. That'll probably be our annual reorganization.
When's that gonna be?
The
13th?
13th.
Oh,
Great. Is there any other commissioner comments, requests, referrals? Soapboxes? Nope. Okay, we are adjourned.